Hello, my name is Bjorn. I'm here today with the Photographer Academy in our studio just on the outskirts of Falmouth in sunny Cornwall. We're going to be doing a composite shoot with a male model, which means we're taking one photograph of him here today in the studio, and then we'll be going out on location and taking a background image to bring the two together in post-production later. I'm going to start bringing this set together, first of all by bringing in some upright panels. So it's called a subtractive fill. What it's going to do, as much as it's actually going to stop any light coming in as a fill, skin will actually pick this up as a contaminant. In this case, it's going to be black. So we're going to look at the other side of this panel now. I believe that it will look as though there is too much light coming in that wouldn't actually exist in the sunset that we're going to be shooting in. With that in mind, we're going to choose a grey. I'm going to just drape this up over the panels, feeling that the mid-tonality in terms of reflecting light in and drawing light away is going to be as close to the natural environment, the background image, as we can achieve in the studio today. If we actually gain a background image first, we can study all of the different nuances of how the lighting is behaving, and there's various things there going on. If there's one light but different light sources, in other words, we're going to be shooting a sunset, so the sun is going to be coming in from behind the model, so it's going to be backlit. And then that sun is going up into the sky, which is creating an illumination in itself and bathing back forwards onto him a very soft and low contrast light. So once we have the background image, we can analyze all of those things. It's very important that everything behaves in exactly the same way for the composite to look believable. The shoot itself is going to be fairly simple. We're only using two lights, but it's the quality of the lights that they're going to produce that is actually most important. So the first light I want to talk about is an Octa, the Octa being the modifier. And what is an especially astonishing quality of these lights is, if I can just pop you inside, and what you'll see inside here, you'll see that the head is inverted. It's actually bursting against a matte fabric. A light meter going right across its 2 meters breadth will only show a variance of in the region of 0.2 of a stop. It is the light coming at a subject from different directions at the same time that actually creates the very low contrast feeling, because basically shadows can't develop where there is light. But a point I would like to make, that if I'm very close to this light, the contrast is going to be exquisitely low, and it's a relatively shadowless light. If I was to step back away from the light, if I were to put my fingers up, the light relative to Will is actually come down to about this size. As the light travels further away, as its size becomes smaller relative to the subject, the contrast will increase. This light has been used in the vertical position because we're going to try to convey the feeling of a sunset, actually with some of the light reflecting off of a surface. The light is in fairly close to him. Inside, you'll just see there's a baffle in there. It's translucent, so it's allowing light to pass through, but it's got enough density in there to bounce some of that light back into the back of the softbox. And every time we redirect and break down a light or temper with its quality in such a way, it becomes softer as a general rule. Daylight will not fall off in intensity over that short distance from the face to the feet. A flash head in a studio, however, will fall off in intensity. We've put a reflector on the floor here, just a little bit of additional light to maybe 2 to 3/10 of a stop in onto the leg section, the feet, and up to about the knees. We're getting F8 all the way, F8 at the middle of the torso, and F8 down to the feet. That is how daylight would behave. The background light is to emulate the sun. So you might think, well, that will be brighter as it would be on the scene, but there's a little law of physics that's going to mess with us a little bit there, and I would suggest that you set the background light as one stop below the value of 1. The value of 1 being F8, I would actually set the background as it applies itself to Will at 5.6. So it's one stop below, which is a ratio of 2 to 1. But one of the things where there's an absence, whilst we are allowing for the fact that in post-production we're going to temper the color temperature, What I would like to do, and what I have done actually, is we've added a gel. There's an amber gel now within this softbox to temper the color of this light, and only this light. In the actual finished image, we're going to create a localized color shift. In other words, the amber that's coming from the sun, we're going to have that as a denser, more contaminated color than will be the rest of the scene. So just to recap on some of the sort of primary points really in terms of what makes it successful. We were very observant in terms of the height of the light, being the sun, the sunset. We took into consideration the warmth of that light, that it had a very warm color temperature to it. We looked at the environment around where we were going to place the subject. We looked at the reflectance values of how the sunlight was going to actually apply itself to that environment, and then in turn how it would apply itself to our subject once placed into position. The most important thing is an understanding of the difference in light quality and the different types of light that we're using. Flash and daylight can come together beautifully and can be combined in one exposure, or in the case of this, they could be separated and shot separately in different locations. But understanding that flash behaves in a very different way, in that its distance to the subject is very controlled by a light fall off and gain. If you alter that distance at all, if the subject comes closer to the light or further away, there's a huge fall off of light. So even by having the main light, the big octa that we used, even by having that raised a little bit and that light having to travel a little bit further to the floor, can cause a fall off of light, and that won't happen in daylight. And that is one of the fundamental differences that we have to consider to bring these images together to where it looks believable, looks real. This image isn't a departure from reality. This image is created to where somebody look at it and think, well, that person was shot on location. Okay, we're now at the editing stage to begin bringing the two images together. Using this quick selection tool, we can outline most of the subject and fill the outer side black, whilst filling inside the mask white so that this is visible. Placing Will on the grass just in front of the rock is the preconceived position. To make Will's feet look more naturally placed, we can copy some grass and rock to cover his toes. We will now add a sample of sky from another image, which not only has more detail, it adds warmth to the overall image. To achieve the same lighting on the water, we can flip the sky image. Finally, several minutes of overall adjustments to improve the compatibility of the two different images. This involves looking at texture, contrast, highlights and shadows, and color balance. I hope you found this video useful, and I very much look forward to presenting some more for you in the very near future. Thank you.